Welcome, welcome, welcome. As you're joining us live, drop in the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from. I love to see how far these conversations reach. And if you're catching this on replay, go ahead and drop that hashtag replay in the comments so we know you are part of the party too. It is Mother's Day weekend, and I seriously could not think of a better way to kick it off than this conversation. It's gonna make me feel really nerdy. I realize that. But that's because the job market in Q2 2025 is wild. You guys know I love talking about job search. AI is everywhere. Job seekers are burning out from extended searches from the flat 2024 market. And so many are asking, why am I doing all of the things and still not going anywhere? So today we will be flipping the script in this session called Stop Guessing, Start Getting Hired, because guessing gets you ghosted. And we're here to help you move smarter, not harder. And I'm beyond excited to welcome the legendary career Sherpa herself, Hannah Morgan. Let me pop you on stage. Hi. So if you are in the job search space, you know Hannah well. She's nationally recognized as a job search expert, speaker, writer, strategist. She's been in Forbes, US Today, US News. I mean, you name it, she's been there. She's built a LinkedIn audience of over 300,000 by telling the truth on modern job search and helping people take control of their career. So Hannah, welcome. Did I miss anything? How do you want yourself to be introduced? We didn't go through that part.
I'm embarrassed. Yeah, I'm just a chick. I'm just here. Right, we all learn from the school of hard knocks. And, right? Been there, done that. And I think that's what gives us the credibility that we have, Tegan, is that, we're in there in the trenches. We're in the trenches with them. We know what's working. We see what's not working.
Yeah.
So,
well, let me welcome a few more people. Liz from Philly, Diane from Connecticut. We've got a couple of people that have their privacy settings on, which is okay. We still love that. Lots of people tuning in from all over. So welcome, 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 everyone. We are so glad you're here. Time is of the essence, so I want to dive right in. Let's kick things off with a reality check, maybe. So we're in Q2 of 2025. AI is everywhere. Ghosting just seems to be picking up even more, if that is even possible. And job boards are packed. Thousands of people are applying. We keep hearing of like fake AI bots getting to interview rounds. It's nuts. So Hannah, what is the biggest shift you're seeing in how hiring is actually happening right now, and where job seekers might be missing the mark a little bit?
That is probably the greatest question. And I think in order to give the best answer, we really need to dive into what industry and what job are you talking about, right? Yes. Because I think it depending on what you're looking for and what kind of company you're looking for, it's going to be really different. We know what we know globally, like from an overall perspective, with the job market right now, is that a lot of companies are in a holding pattern. They're waiting to see, and they're waiting to see about a couple of things. One, how can we better utilize AI to cut back on our staffing and things like that? There are a lot of companies that are sort of experimenting with that. And then there are other companies that are like, I don't know if we're going to be able to buy our product from China at an affordable price right now. So we're not going to be expanding business. Like, we got to wait and see what happens with that. So like those are like wait and see is sort of one of the biggest things holding companies back right now. They don't know. There's uncertainty in the market, and the Federal Reserve Chair said that too. There's uncertainty in the market. Whenever there's uncertainty in the market, companies hold tight. So it doesn't mean forever. It just means for right now. So and depending on what industry you've been in, you've seen some of these things happening along the lines, earlier in the year. Like the tech, we were seeing a lot of, not hiring, holding back, last year. Now it's sort of hitting other organizations. So I don't want people to get hung up on what the economy is doing, because I am old enough to remember in 2008, 9, 10, when there were literally no jobs available. And the
That's
guidance.
when I graduated, and it was awful trying to get a job.
Right. And I feel sorry for the new grads now, because they are also having a really hard time. There are just no companies, and very few companies hiring new grads right now. So
Yeah.
it's really similar. But what we told people then, and what you probably heard, was, you know what? It doesn't matter that you don't see a lot of job postings. There are still companies hiring. You have to go out there and find them, because they're not going to post their ads. Or if they do post their ads, they're overwhelmed, and then you're one of 1,000 people, and you can't stand out, right? So that's the name of the game. It is, we've got to get job seekers to work harder and smarter.
Yeah.
So the days of easy apply and all of that we saw for the last few years after the pandemic, those are gone for now. They'll come back, but now they're gone. So we have to be really smart. We've got to be purposeful. We've got to build connections, and we'll talk more about that. But the job search is different today. I had a conversation with a job seeker the other day. It was this week. And he's like, Hannah, I'm really struggling with my job search. I'm like, well, how many jobs are you applying to? He's like, a day? I'm like, sure, a day. He's like, 200.
Whoa.
I said, okay, I need you to stop, and I said, how long have you been doing this for? He's like, months. Like, so for months, you've been applying for 200 jobs a day, and you haven't gotten any interviews? No, I haven't gotten a single interview. Okay, obviously what you're doing is not working. Stop, right?
Yeah.
So we had to roll back. Why do you think this isn't working? Well, let's talk about why that isn't working. He wasn't customizing his resume to address the unique requirements in each job. He didn't even bother to look to see if he knew anybody inside that company that could serve as a referral. Oh, by the way, like 98% of companies offer referral bonuses to their employees. So you're actually, if you ask an inside employee that you know, keyword no, to recommend you for a job, they're going to get some sort of a bonus if you get hired. So why would you not give your friend that opportunity to make money? And oh, by the way, referred candidates get shoved to the front of the line.
Yeah.
So, but he wasn't doing any of that. So we had to roll this back. And so that the idea that, if I just apply to more jobs, I stand a better chance. That doesn't work if you haven't put in the work of customizing your resume and making things look good.
Yeah. Erin tunes in and says hi. And she says,
oh, hi, Erin. I just had a conversation with Erin yesterday. Hey, honey.
Oh, she's the best. Yeah. She says, job seekers need to be strategic and have a plan and be intentional. And something you hinted to, Hannah, was almost being visible, right? So if you're just applying online and to 200, which I don't even know how you get through 200 applications with how many.
It's all AI.
Yeah. So how do you apply online to 200 jobs? That's just being busy, right? But if you can be more visible and do so in a smart way, what does that look like? How do you be smart about going about your job search and not falling into these AI traps of, hey, I'll fill out 200 applications for you, a day, and you're going to land a job, but then still a year later, you're still jobless.
Yeah, there's so many ways to do this. Like the easiest way, let me talk about the easiest way, but then I'll talk about the better way. The easiest way is when you see a job posting, I want you to go to LinkedIn and see if you know anybody in that company. And if you have any first degree connections, I want you to reach out to that person on LinkedIn and through email and say, hey, I saw this job posting at your company. I'm really interested. What can you tell me about it? And what would you recommend my next steps be? Right? Ask that person for their advice and insight, right? After you let them know. That's somebody you know. If you don't know anybody, like you don't have any first level connections, then I want you to go to LinkedIn, the alumni page for your school, and see if you know anybody who works in there. And you can reach out cold which is a yucky thing to do, but at least if you share that institution, you went to the same college, you can reach out cold and say, we went to the same school. I'd love to talk with you more about the opening I just saw. Would you be open to a conversation? Right? So those would be the two really easy, fast things you could do. I don't want job seekers reaching out cold to somebody they don't know inside a company using LinkedIn. Nobody's going to give a response. Nobody's going to respond to
posted
that.
about that today, so that was super timely.
Yeah, there's been a lot of chatter on LinkedIn about that. That's zero result on that. That's crazy. So we need to do one of those two things. Okay, I know somebody, or I went to school with somebody. Ta-da! Like, that's great. The other thing that we can do is talk to everybody we know. Personally, we know, like all our friends and colleagues, and say, hey, I just saw this great job at ABC company. Do you know anybody who works there that I could talk to? It doesn't matter what department they work in, that we can worry about that later. Just get that first level connection. So that would also be a warm contact. So those are the three things that you could do, like reacting to when you find a job posting, right? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hustle. You've got to do this quick because we know these job postings aren't up for very long, right? The better strategy is to say, okay, this is the kind of work I'm looking for. These are the companies that I think match the kind of industry you want to be in, the size of the company, they're doing the right kind of work. And that takes research. But thank goodness for AI. What are some of the top jobs in this metro area? Or so what are some of the top acting as a researcher? Yeah. What are some of the top employers in this city that would potentially hire this occupation? Right? And so you'll get a list of companies. Research those and see if any of them look good. And then you put them on your target company list. You build a list of about 50 companies. And then from that list of companies, I want you to go company number 1. Who do you know on LinkedIn that works for that company? Reach out to them. Doesn't need to have a job, no job available. That's okay. You're just checking in with this person. Hey, it's been a while since we last worked together. I wanted to check in and see what's going on with you. That is the end of your request. You get on the phone, you Zoom with them, and you ask them all about their work. And then they say, gee, Hannah, what's going on with you? And you can say, well, I'm glad you asked. I'm in the middle of a job search right now, and I'm looking to gain more information about your company. What can you tell me? So the beginning part of that phone call is all about them, getting them to feel good, getting them to tell you about their life, reacquainting yourself so they begin to know, like, and trust you again. That's got to be there, right? So now if you do that for every person you know at that company, for all 50 companies, you've started that relationship. And one of the questions you might ask is, who else inside this company would you recommend that I speak with to learn more about this type of work? And then that employee is going to refer you to one of their colleagues, and that's a warm referral. But if you're doing this after the fact, or after a job has been posted, then you're never going to get there in time. It's going to take too long. That's why you have to start building this now. And oh, by the way, there are a lot of jobs that are posted on job boards that we don't know about, that we don't see, because we primarily use LinkedIn or whatever. There are thousands of different job boards. Maybe that company has decided strategically they're going to post an opening on a different job board, but I haven't seen it. There may be an opening in that company that you don't know about, that you haven't seen. So to say I only want to apply, I only want to target companies that are hiring is complete BS, because you don't know what companies really are hiring right now.
All companies are hiring, always, even if they're going through layoffs, even if they're on hiring freezes, because key roles, there has to be butts in seats, or there can be like legal consequences, depending on the situation. So a bunch more people just tuned in, Hannah. So real quickly, we are talking about job search strategy. And if you are just tuning in, you might want to go back and watch the replay, because Hannah just dropped some amazing bombs. She was talking about getting more visible instead of just mass applying through AI tools. And so there's a reactive way, which is once you see something, scramble to try to get a referral or go ahead and apply. And then there's a proactive way where you're building a company list and you're connecting before there's even a role posted potentially. Now, she mentioned a couple of great sources, but I've got 10 that work really well. So 1, in life, real family and friends. 2, former colleagues. 3, current or past clients or customers. 4, anybody that you've ever gone to a conference with, an event, a panel. 5, membership group members. I'm in the Bold Collectives. I'm in the Forbes Coaching Council. They all have member directories that you can reach out, and just off the strength of being in a similar group, people are likely to connect. And to Hannah's point, if you missed it, you don't start off, hey, Hannah, can you get me a job? It's no, hey, Hannah, I would love to learn a little bit more about you. Let's chat. And when she asks you more about you, that's your opportunity to share where you're at. She mentioned alumni, which is such a missed opportunity because, again, there's that synergy there. If anybody follows you on LinkedIn that you're not connected with, low-hanging fruit. They didn't click on that button by accident. If you are following thought leaders in your industry and you're commenting on their stuff, look who else is commenting there. That's a great way to leave a comment back and start warm engagement. Former mentors and mentees, and any company alum, even if you didn't work at the same time. So for all of you who have those objections, because I can hear them, nobody commented them, but I heard you loud and clear saying, Hannah, I don't have time for that. I need a job right now. Hannah, I don't have any connections. Well, you can make them, and you can make them real freaking quick. So let's keep it on moving, and let's talk about the elephant in the room, AI. AI is writing resumes, cover letters, and LinkedIn posts. What is your take on how job seekers should be using AI to be working smarter in their job search? Like, what's helpful, what's harmful?
Yeah. So LinkedIn does, or I say, and I've said for a long time, that AI is a great research assistant. It's a great assistant in general. It can create drafts. It's not going to create the final product. The prompt we give it is the quality of the prompt we give it is the quality of the output we get. So for example, I have seen people say, I used AI to write my resume, and I call BS, because there is no way you can tell AI, ChatGPT, using this outline of my work history, write a resume for me. You can't do that. It doesn't work that way. You could feed it different parts of your resume and have it edit it or revise it. Like, okay, using this bullet that I've written, make it provide 3 different ways to give it more of an impact, or have it follow this XYZ formula, right? So if we use it to edit our work, it's okay. If you want to say, here's my work experience, can you write a summary, that highlights these specific skills, that's better. But if you just say, use my resume and write a summary, it's going to be garbage. Right.
Yeah.
But it's a starting point, and it saves you time. We can use the same thing with a cover letter. It doesn't write a cover letter. It writes a paragraph of a cover letter. So treat each paragraph individually so that you can control the output. It can write a LinkedIn post, but you've got to feed it something first. These are my thoughts on X, Y, and Z. Can you help create a compelling LinkedIn post that might generate interest and show me demonstrate that I'm a thought leader?
I love it for research, and there is no way that I have capacity to read a 157-page quarterly report, right? But if I'm doing an interview prep, to Alex's point, I need to know enough about the company's pain points and how I can uniquely position myself to solve their future goals, which they are going to be talking about in there, to really craft thoughtful and customized answers. And so I love it for research. I think it's great for, like you had mentioned, finding companies in your area, but it's got a lot of weak points. And so, so as you're playing around with it as a job seeker, just ask yourself, how am I editing it? Or what information am I asking it for that's going to make me blend in because it's giving everybody else the same information, or helping me stand out? Because one of the things I'm sure you hear all the time too is that someone feels like they're showing up consistently. Maybe they're one of the brave job seekers who are actually posting on LinkedIn or just commenting, or at least are on the platform looking at the job board. They're networking, or at least they're trying to sending those messages, will you connect? But they still feel invisible. How does that person go from I'm doing all the right things, but nothing's clicking? What are typically the things where it's like, okay, you think you are, but here's a different way to go about it, because what used to work doesn't work anymore?
Yeah. I think a lot of people are doing all of that stuff, but when you do too much of it, you lose sight of the humanness of it. So if you post, make a thought leader post and you post it on LinkedIn, are you thoughtfully responding to the comments that you are getting underneath that post? And oh, by the way, are you taking that relationship one step further, right? So if somebody leaves you a comment and you leave a response and it's the second time they've done that, I think it's time for you to reach out to them on LinkedIn and ask them for a conversation.
Yes.
Right. So
That's
I know the vast majority of people are not doing that. Right. I am guilty of that. Tegan, and you and I have been engaged in so many different ways over the past 3 or 4 years. This is the first time we've ever spoken. So
I know, I feel so guilty about that.
But here's the thing. We've engaged in dialogue online and we
Yeah.
feel like we know each other, right?
Yeah.
So if someone ever asks for a recommendation, I'm comfortable giving your name because I feel like I know you. And it's not just from what we post, here in the public, it's the conversations that we've had in the LinkedIn messaging platform as well. So we want our job seekers to develop virtually that same level of trust, but that takes time. So we can help speed that up by getting on the phone, getting on camera with some of these people that we want to meet. Because once you've met somebody on camera, it's like, oh my gosh, why didn't we do this sooner? We've got so much in common. Or I have had this happen too. We're like, okay, this was nice. Thank you. And you really don't want to talk to that person again. There just wasn't that chemistry, right? That
Yep.
can happen. And I don't want to set the expectation that every conversation you have is going to be an instant BFF situation. It doesn't always happen that way.
It's not, but they don't have to be a sunk cost, because then you can walk away from it having said, okay, maybe that person isn't my cup of tea. So now I know what to look for moving forward. Or I respect that that's how they feel, but I don't have those same feelings. And then the golden nugget that you dropped about asking somebody, who else should I be talking to?
Mhm.
They might introduce you to somebody who is so much more in alignment with what your goals are. Now, I know we're coming close to time, and so I want to talk about something that I think would be really powerful for everyone. It may be my type A, so check me here, Hannah, if you do not agree. But I think tracking your job search efforts is really important, because then you know what's working for you and what isn't, and you can objectively see how you're actually showing up. So, what is your take on it? And for everyone tuning in, like she just said, we haven't talked about this before, so let me hear it.
Every business is tracking their key performance indicators, right? A business does that. And so we have to track our key performance indicators as a job seeker. So it's a whole bunch of things. Because you need a full scope of what you're doing and be able to assess what's working. So keeping track of the number of conversations you are having with people. These are networking conversations, one-on-one networking conversations. Keeping track of the number of hiring manager conversations you have. So there are oftentimes we have conversations with a peer, but we want to also have conversations with people up the ladder a little bit more, because they often can make things happen. So if someone's ever willing to introduce you to a CEO of a company and you feel nervous about it, don't be. That's a great person to talk to. They play at a different level. They see things at a different level, and their perspective is value. And oftentimes they can open up doors for us. So how many general networking, how many hiring manager above conversations have you had? How many jobs did you apply to? How many recruiters did you reach out to? Those are the big ones. those would be the 4 big ones that I would be tracking. I'm sure I have a whole list because I have a job club and I ask them to track a whole bunch of stuff. I
Yep.
think where you spend your time is equally important. So when I ask people to start tracking their time in 1 hour increments, they're like, well, I spend 3 hours tweaking my resume. I'm like, da-da, that's a problem right there. You can't afford to spend 3 hours tweaking your resume for every job. So
Yep.
we need to look at how you can get smarter about tracking that time. I'm using 5 hours to prep for an interview. No, you can't spend 5 hours prepping for one interview. That is not a good use of your time. I can't even imagine what you would be practicing for 5 hours. So again, it's looking at how that time is being invested and what is the activity that you are investing it in, because that's where the mismatch is.
Yeah, I think that anything that we can do that compounds, we want to spend more time doing. So the more information that we gather, the more people that we talk to, the more clarity that we get as who we are as individual contributors or leaders, what value we can bring, what problems we solve, how to articulate that in a way that's magnetic. Those are the things that are worth our time. But yeah, I'm with you. Some things are a time waster. One of the things that I'll ask people to do is pull up their phone usage and how much time is spent on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. Or I mean, it's one thing if you're watching like educational YouTube videos, and it's another if you're just doom scrolling. And so it's really interesting. People will realize, wow, I really do spend all that time. And there's nothing wrong with decompression. There's nothing wrong with having a life. You don't want to job search 24/7. But we think we're spending 5 hours preparing for that interview, and really 2 hours was spent, watching, getting sucked into Instagram. Okay, so let's do something really powerful right now. If you had to have job seekers stop doing one thing this week so they start seeing better results, what would it be?
Okay, so I think the most actionable item that they can do is, but only, this is going to sound weird. When there's a job that you are interested in applying to, before you actually apply, I want you to find somebody inside that company, or somebody somebody that knows somebody inside that company, to talk to them about their experience working at that company before you actually apply. So don't apply yet. Find anybody you possibly can using that super list of people that you itemize, right? Ask everybody that you know what do they know about working there, what can they tell you about the job, and then decide if you want to apply. You're going to gain intel, you're going to gain information. They may say, oh, send it to me, I'll forward it along, whatever, but have that conversation before you actually apply.
I love that, because then when you do get an interview and you're like, this wasn't a good fit, and you've wasted all that time applying, preparing for the interview, being in the interview, you could have been doing something else all along if you just did the research up front. Okay, lastly, let's close this off on a bang. If you could get every job seeker watching to believe one thing about their job search, what would it be?
Oh, that's such a good question. I will tell you, every single person will ultimately get a job. Every single person listening here who is unemployed will eventually get a job. Guarantee it, right? I think that over time, there are things you're willing to compromise on, or you become clearer in what you really want to do, or you decide, you know what, for the time being, I'm going to go do this, which is something that I've always wanted to do, but it's very different from what I've already been doing. Whatever the situation is, every single person listening today will have a job. It may not be their dream job. Maybe it is their dream job. Maybe this is a pivot that was just waiting to happen. We have to believe in the process, believe in ourselves. That's what I want. I want people to believe in yourself. You are valuable. Somebody needs you. They just don't know about you yet.
Oh, I love that. All right. So for those of you tuning in or watching this on replay, believe in yourself. You have value to bring. You will land a job. All right, Hannah, this conversation was so rich. I could have talked to you for like 5 hours, I think, and still had more things to cover. But I want to thank you for being here today, for your wisdom and all the ways that you show up and empower job seekers every day. For those of you who are tuning in from my audience who aren't already following Hannah, I highly recommend it. Subscribe to her newsletter. It is the best job seeker newsletter that's out there. And I say that being a fan of multiple career coaches newsletters. It's always fantastic. And so for everyone watching, I hope you got a lot of value out today. If you know someone who is on the job search that could have benefited from this conversation, forward this along. It's on replay. Forward it along and help other people on this journey too. So Hannah, thank you so much for joining me. And for all of you, remember, don't hustle harder, job search smarter. That is what true strategy does. So I will see you all next week. And Hannah, if you've got time, hang back and I would love to chat with you a little bit more. All right, everybody, bye.
Bye.